A tourist broke the toes of a famous sculpture that dates back to 1804 at Italy's Museo Antonio Canova on Friday, according to a Facebook post shared by the museum. Multiple reports, including one from ArtNet News, say the tourist was attempting to take a selfie while sitting on neoclassical sculptor Antonio Canova's plaster, Paolina Borghese's Venus Victrix, at the museum in Passano, just over an hour outside of Venice, when the mishap occurred. However, a report from Italian news agency Adinchronos says that the visitor realized he had broken the sculpture after, lying next to the precious work, being photographed by another person, according to a translation from Italian. Reuters has since shared footage that shows the tourist sitting on the sculpture, while someone else appears to be taking his photo. Surveillance footage released shows the tourist sitting on the statue. Carabinieri Treviso hand out Reuters the sculpture displayed in the Northern Italy Museum as a plaster cast for the marble version, Paolina Borghese's Venus Victrix, which is currently in Rome's Galleria Borghese. The museum's Facebook post said an Austrian tourist was responsible for breaking 2 toes of the sculpture. Adinchronos and Reuters, however, say the sculpture lost 3 toes. The museum's Facebook post added that the visitor left the scene and didn't notify the museum of the breakage. A few minutes later, our room guards detected the damage and raised the alarm, the museum's statement, translated from Italian, said. An emergency situation was immediately declared. The museum said on Facebook that the fragments of the broken sculpture were found and that the cast can be restored. The museum said it is discussing the artwork's future restoration in the coming weeks. This won't be the first time the statue has been restored. As ArtNet News points out, citing Italian newspaper La Repubblica, the plaster cast lost its head after a Christmas bombing raid in 1917 during World War I and was restored years later in 2004. Adinchronos said in its report that when the tourist realized he had broken part of the structure, the museum goer was visibly disturbed by what had happened and moved out of view of surveillance cameras. Speaking to Italian newspaper Il Fatto Quotidiano, Valerio Favero, the mayor of Passano, confirmed that the tourist had been identified. The really incredible thing is that he had not thought of reporting the incident, Favero was quoted saying in the report, translated from Italian. In my eyes, the fact of leaving the sculpture in that condition is criminal. A close-up of the plaster, Paolina Borghese's Venus Victrix, which now has missing toes. According to the same report, surveillance footage was used to identify the tourist. ArtNet News reports that the museum could identify the tourist involved thanks to a new check-in process where visitors sign their names on entering. Rescue workers dug through rubble searching for survivors as fires continue to burn in the Lebanese capital, where an explosion killed more than 100 and injured thousands. We need everything to hospitalize the victims, and there is an acute shortage of everything, Lebanon's health minister told reporters. Rescue workers still struggling to treat thousands of people wounded in an enormous explosion that rocked Beirut turned their attention on Wednesday morning to the desperate search for survivors. The blast, so powerful it could be felt more than 150 miles away in Cyprus, leveled whole sections of the city near the port of Beirut, leaving nothing but twisted metal and debris for blocks in Beirut's downtown business district. The waterfront neighborhood, normally full of restaurants and nightclubs, was essentially flattened. A number of crowded residential neighborhoods in the city's eastern and predominantly Christian half were also ravaged. Nearly all the windows along one popular commercial strip had been blown out and the street was littered with glass, rubble and cars that had slammed into each other after the blast. The buildings that remained standing in the blast area looked as if they had been skinned, leaving only hulking skeletons. The death toll rose to over 100 and with an untold number still missing and officials expected that figure to rise. More than 4,000 people were injured, overwhelming the city's hospitals. What we are witnessing is a huge catastrophe, the head of Lebanon's Red Cross George Ketani told the news network Mayadeen. There are victims and casualties everywhere. With electricity out in most of the city, emergency workers were limited in what they could do until the sun rose. Emergency workers joined residents scattered across the wreckage digging through the rubble, even fires still smoldered around them. There are many people missing until now. People are asking the emergency department about their loved ones and it is difficult to search at night because there is no electricity, Health Minister Hamid Hassan told Reuters. We need everything to hospitalize the victims, and there is an acute shortage of everything, Mr. Hassan told local news stations on Wednesday morning. Officials said it appeared the blast was caused by the detonation of more than 700 tons of ammonium nitrate, a chemical commonly used in fertilizer and bombs, which had been stored in a warehouse at the port since it was confiscated from a cargo ship in 2014. As head of the government, I will not relax until we find the responsible party for what happened, hold it accountable and apply the most serious punishments against it, Prime Minister Hassan Diab said. Maj. General Abbas Ibrahim, the head of Lebanon's General Security Service, told the state-run news agency that highly explosive materials had been seized by the government years ago and were stored near the blast site. B&G Foods CEO Ken Ramanzi told CNBC's Jim Cramer Tuesday that he expects the company's vast range of brands to retain a significant number of customers who were introduced to their food products during the pandemic. B&G, the holding company of Cream of Wheat, Ortega, Poliner, B&G Pickles, Green Giant and other brands, has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of the coronavirus shutdown, along with other consumer goods and grocery companies, as households sheltered in place and restaurants closed in efforts to stop the spread of the deadly virus earlier this year. I think post-COVID, people will be working more at home, which means people will be eating more breakfast at home, which means you can run down at lunchtime and throw a banana bread in the oven, Ramanzi said in a Mad Money interview. The comments come days after the food producer reported quarterly earnings that topped Wall Street estimates. The company's revenue came in at $512.5 million, up 38% from a year earlier, and net income came in at $44.9 million. B&G, like other food companies, saw sales surge as demand for pantry items increased amid the pandemic. While Ramanzi does not expect the uptick in demand will hold in its entirety, he said on the earnings call Thursday that new households are like the fountain of youth for a brand marketer. If and when a COVID-19 vaccine is found and the masses are willing to venture outside again, behaviors will with the times as more people began cooking at home during the months-long lockdown, he said. We're in the pantry, we're in the freezer and we're ready to continue to meet consumers' needs as they cook and eat more at home, he said in Tuesday's interview. Shares of B&G Foods rose 0.65% to $29.51 in Tuesday's session. The stock is up more than 64% this year. Bryan Callen has been seen in public for the first time since announcing he will be taking a leave of absence from his podcast amid rape and sex assault allegations. The actor and comedian, 53, best known for his recurring role on the long-running ABC sitcom The Goldbergs, chatted on his phone and with a friend outside a home in Los Angeles Monday. Callen has been accused by 4 women of sexual misconduct spanning decades and ranging from inappropriate remarks to assault. On Sunday he vehemently denied the allegations against him but said he would be taking a leave of absence from his podcast. Pictures taken Monday show the star in a gray hoodie, jeans and sneakers as he entered a home before an unidentified woman later came to the door to collect a food delivery to that address. He chatted on the phone before speaking with a friend walking in his dog in his slippers. Callen was not wearing a wedding ring Monday. His wife of 11 years filed for a divorce in February of this year, according to a TMZ report. Following the bombshell allegations, Callen had released a statement to DailyMail.com through his publicist, vehemently denying all the claims of sexual misconduct against him. Bryan Callen has been seen in public for the first time since announcing he will be taking a leave of absence from his podcast amid rape and sex assault allegations. Pictures taken Monday show the star in a gray hoodie, jeans and sneakers. He chatted on the phone and with a friend. Callen has been accused by 4 women of sexual misconduct spanning decades and ranging from inappropriate remarks to assault. On Sunday he vehemently denied the allegations against him but said he would be taking a leave of absence from his podcast. Catherine Fiore Tigerman, 44, one-time MAD TV cast member, told the Los Angeles Times that Callen raped her in his house after taking her out to dinner more than 20 years ago. An employee at an American apparel store named Rachel Green accused Callan of pinning her against a dressing room wall and forcibly kissing her a decade later. Claire Ganshert, who was an aspiring actress when she met Callan in 2012 when she was 23 and working as a barista, and he was 45 and married, said she had a 4-year affair with Callan, and that he told her in 2016 that women have a biological, primal desire to be raped. The most recent allegation comes from comedian Tiffany King, who claimed that the actor offered her stage time and money in exchange for oral sex in 2017, while she was going through a difficult divorce and struggling financially. The bombshell allegations against the 53-year-old comic were detailed in a Los Angeles Times article that was published on Friday morning. He said on Instagram Sunday, "When you're in a situation like I am, you get a lot of advice from a lot of different people, and it usually falls into 2 different categories." Popular Chicago rapper FBG Duck was reportedly killed and 2 others wounded in a broad daylight shooting in the city's ritzy Gold Coast neighborhood. The 26-year-old artist was shopping with a 28-year-old woman and another man, 36, when they were shot on East Oak Street at about 4:40 p.m., reported ABC7 Chicago, citing police and the artist's friends. 4 suspects exited 2 cars and opened fire at the trio, who were on the sidewalk at the time, cops said. FBG Duck was struck 3 times and later died at a nearby hospital. The woman was shot in the hand, while the 3rd victim was seriously wounded after getting hit in his back and torso. Authorities did not immediately release the victim's identity, but friends of FBG Duck told ABC7 Chicago that he was the fatal victim. The aftermath of the shooting was captured by witnesses and posted on social media. In one video, a woman could be heard wailing on the phone as 2 men lie near each other on the street in between 2 cars. FBG Duck grew up on Chicago's South Side, and his brother, who was also part of the Flyboy gang, and cousin were shot dead in July 2017. In an October 2018 interview with Vlad TV, FBG Duck said he had an automatic breakdown when he saw his 2 relatives lying on the ground after the shooting. "Everything I do right now is for them," he said. By Jan M. Olsen, Associated Press Copenhagen, Denmark, a Norwegian cruise ship line halted all trips and apologized Monday for procedural errors after an outbreak of coronavirus on one ship infected at least 5 passengers and 36 crew. Health authorities fear the ship could have infected dozens of towns and villages along Norway's western coast. The 41 people on the MS Roald Amundsen who tested positive have been admitted to the University Hospital of North Norway in Tromsø, north of the Arctic Circle, where the ship currently is docked. A preliminary evaluation shows that there has been a failure in several of our internal procedures, Hurtigruten CEO Daniel Skeldam said in a statement. He added the company that sails along Norway's picturesque coast between Bergen in the south and Kirkenes in the north is now in the process of a full review of all procedures, and all aspects of our own handling. The cruise line has contacted passengers who had been on the MS Roald Amundsen for its July 17-24 and July 25-31 trips from Bergen to the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard, which is known for its polar bears. Here were 209 guests on the first voyage and 178 guests on the second voyage. All 158 crew members on MS Roald Amundsen have been tested and 122 were negative. But since the cruise ship line often acts like a local ferry, traveling from port to port along Norway's western coast, the virus may not have been contained on board. Some passengers disembarked along the route and may have spread the virus to their local communities. The municipality of Tromsø is urging anyone who traveled on the ship or had any contact with the ship to get in touch with health authorities. A total of 69 municipalities in Norway have been affected, Norwegian news agency NTB reported. It's not known how the outbreak began since guests come from all over the world. NTB said 33 of the 36 crew members that have tested positive came from the Philippines and the others came from Norway, France and Germany. Over the weekend, Skeldam said cruise ship officials did not know that they should have notified the passengers after the first case was reported Friday, adding that they followed the advice of the ship's doctors. But Linevold of the Norwegian Institute of Public Health said its advice was to inform passengers and crew as soon as possible so they could monitor their health and go into quarantine if needed. "We have made mistakes. On behalf of all of us in Hurtigruten, I am sorry for what has happened. We take full responsibility, Skeldam said. The Hurtigruten line says the operations of 3 ships, MS Roald Amundsen, MS Fridtjof Nansen and MS Spitsbergen, have been halted for an indefinite period. The Tromsø-based Hurtigruten was one of the first companies to resume sailing after the pandemic hit and started cruises to Norway out of Hamburg, northern Germany, in June with a single ship. It added cruises to Svalbard in July, Norwegian media reported. While Disney was able to reopen most of its international theme parks in recent months, the continued closure of Disney World and Disneyland in the US resulted in a big financial hit. On Tuesday, the company said the COVID-19 outbreak cost its parks, experiences and products segment around $3.5 billion in lost operating income during its fiscal third quarter. That unit includes all 6 of Disney's international theme parks, its cruise lines, hotels and tours, as well as its merchandise. In the quarter, which ended June 29, Disney reported an 85% drop in this segment, with revenue falling to $1 billion. While parks in Shanghai, Hong Kong and Japan were able to reopen during the quarter, most of Disney's parks business comes from its U locations. Disney World in Florida reopened in July, after the quarter ended. Disneyland in California has not yet set open back up, as the state government hasn't provided reopening guidelines for amusement parks. Disneyland in Paris reopened in July. Disney also reported declines in merchandise licensing and its retail business, further weakening operating results, as its stores were closed for most of the quarter. Last week, technology giant Apple (AAPL) surprised the street when it announced a 4-for-1 stock split. While the stock has rallied tremendously so far this year, a $400 or so price is nothing compared to many of its peers that trade well into 4 digits. While the split won't necessarily change the fundamentals of Apple in the short term, it will have a major impact on the market's most discussed index. Source: Google Images. Seen here as a reminder, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, or Dow 30, is a price-weighted index. Thus, it does not matter if your market cap is $100 billion or $1.5 trillion. Your weighting is based on stock price, so a stock that trades for $200 has double the weight as one that trades at $100. For investors, the best way to have exposure to the index is an ETF, like the SPDR Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF, DIA, sometimes nicknamed the Dow Diamonds. It is not uncommon to see a change like this occur in the Dow 30, although it doesn't happen that often. Replacing one stock with another can change the physical composition of the index, but stock splits change the weighting among all of the components. A good example of this was when credit card giant Visa underwent a similar 4-for-1 split in 2015, which eliminated that name as the largest weight in the Dow 30. Apple has the largest market cap of any US-traded name, so it has the largest weight in the S&P 500 and Nasdaq index, as those indexes are based on market cap. However, not all investors might have realized that Apple's share price above $400 also made it the top weight in the Dow 30, and by a considerable margin as seen on the DIA Holdings page. Friday's big rally in Apple shares gave it an even more outsized weight, above 11%, using actual prices as detailed below. To show you what would essentially happen after the split goes through, I added up all the closing prices from Friday for the Dow 30. I then factored in the Apple split, and below you can see the impact on what would theoretically be the new top 5 in the Dow, as prices will change a bit over the next 4 weeks and there is one other name that could possibly jump into this group. The new top 5 would include United Health (UNH), Home Depot (HD), Microsoft, MSFT, Goldman Sachs (GS), and McDonald's (MCD). Author's note: increases above may look off due to rounding at just over 3% in this example. Apple would drop to the 16th largest component of the Dow 30. Each of the other 29 components of the index gain a little more than 9% additional power. The Dow also gains a bit more overall balance, as the top 5 components go from 36.24% of the index to 32.98%. Perhaps the most important thing here is that the largest weight goes from over 11% currently to under 8.6% in this example. With Apple announcing a stock split last week, the Dow Jones Industrial Average will be shaken up a bit. Silver is set to outshine gold, even as prices of both precious metals soar in the midst of a faltering global economy and a weakening US dollar. This year, gold prices have shot to record highs not seen since September 2011. Investors have been fleeing to safe haven assets as the pandemic shows no signs of abating. Gold prices hit a new record close of $2.021 per ounce overnight, settling above $2,000 for the first time. It was last trading at $2.02030. Geopolitical unrest overnight likely added to the spike. The blasts in Beirut, which killed dozens and wounded thousands, probably added to the shine of gold above $2,020, said a note from Mizuho Bank. Spot gold prices have spiked more than 32% so far this year and are on track for the best year since 1979. Meanwhile, silver prices have also followed suit, shooting up more than 30% year-to-date. Michael Shea, a commodities and foreign exchange strategist at Deutsche Bank, told CNBC he expects silver to outperform gold. Analysts pointed out that the world economy is set to bounce back, and that will drive up industrial consumption. That's set to increase the demand for silver, which has many industrial uses. Silver has a much higher industrial component to it. So, much higher component of silver supply-demand in industrial consumption. And in an environment where we see the global economy recovering, that's another reason to buy silver, Shea told CNBC on Tuesday. Analysts at Citi also said in a note last month that the rebound in manufacturing activity is pushing silver prices higher compared to gold. The U.S. elections could also come into play, Citi said. Analysts at the bank said markets are pricing in the potential for more demand for silver if Joe Biden wins the U.S. presidential elections and delivers his green infrastructure plan. Under Biden's plan, commuter trains, buses and passenger vehicles will run on electricity or clean fuel, and clean light rail and bus systems will be developed. In addition, the plan includes offering incentives to upgrade housing and commercial buildings to make them more resistant to extreme weather. During bull markets for both metals, fleet-footed silver often ascends faster than its heavier, more expensive cousin. Ned Naylor Leyland, precious metals fund manager at Jupiter Asset Management, wrote in a note last week. He pointed to the use of silver in an increasing number of medical applications, as well as in electronic components for 5G telecommunications networks. But generally, both precious metals are set to continue rallying, according to analysts. There is plenty of upside for both gold and silver, in our view, and for silver to continue to outshine even gold, Naylor Leyland wrote. He pointed to factors tipping investors over the edge in their distrust of fiat currencies, especially the US dollar. That includes monetary easing and the spike in government spending on managing the coronavirus outbreak, he said in his note. At least 2 people were killed after a tornado touched down in Bertie County, NC, and caused significant damage to a neighborhood there. After knocking out power for at least 3 million customers, Isaias is in central Vermont. It is expected to no longer be considered a tropical storm late Tuesday or early Wednesday. Isaias pounded a large swath of the Atlantic coast on Tuesday, unleashing heavy rains and winds as fast as 70 miles per hour as it swept through the Carolinas and into the Northeast. Isaias, which made landfall in North Carolina as a Category 1 hurricane and quickly weakened to a tropical storm, left a trail of floods, fires and hundreds of thousands of people without electricity. Some of the storm's most devastating effects were wrought by a series of tornadoes that it spawned across its path. The authorities said at least 3 people had died in the storm. 2 people were killed when a tornado struck a neighborhood in northeast North Carolina, and a woman died in St. Mary's County, MD, when a tree toppled by the winds landed on her vehicle. At 8 p.m. Eastern, the center of Isaias, which is written as Isaias in Spanish and pronounced Iesaias, was about 5 miles northwest of Rutland, Vermont. According to the National Hurricane Center, the storm was racing to the north-northeast on Tuesday evening, bringing a threat of tornadoes with it as it moves across central and southern New England. Tropical storm warnings were in effect from Watch Hill, RI, to Stonington, Maine, as well as in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, Mass. The weakening storm is expected to lose its tropical designation as it moves further inland late Tuesday, through Vermont and into southern Canada. However, tornadoes could still form in southern New England, according to the National Hurricane Center, and gale-force winds were expected to reach southern Quebec by early Wednesday. Officials said that the storm's rapid pace, as fast as 40 meters p.h., stood to help limit river flooding and allowed the authorities to mobilize swiftly. All in all, this storm got out pretty quickly, Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina said in an interview on Good Morning America on Tuesday. Because of that, he added, the damage was not as great as it could have been. Tornadoes had landed in parts of northeastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia and southern New Jersey. Another likely touched down near Dover, Delaware. Photos and videos posted to social media showed trees snapped and pieces of buildings blown on top of vehicles. The New York City region was under a tornado watch until 4 p.m. The storm had delivered only a glancing blow to Florida as it skirted the coast there, with officials expressing relief that it failed to cause the level of damage they had feared. Georgia was largely spared as well. The authorities in Bertie County, NC. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, August 4, approved a plan to reduce traffic-related injuries and deaths in unincorporated areas of the county, setting a goal of 0 fatalities by 2035. Supervisors Hilda Solis and Janice Hahn co-authored the motion to enhance street safety, saying traffic deaths had jumped by nearly 28% countywide from 2013 to 2017, with 400 lives lost. More than 10% of those people were killed on roadways in unincorporated communities. In 2017, the board committed to a Vision Zero program, focusing on system fixes and managing vehicle speeds as the most effective way to reduce deaths. A detailed action plan was drafted last year and then circulated for public comment prior to today's vote. The plan will be co-led by the Departments of Public Works and Public Health. Vision Zero is an innovative initiative that will promote healthy communities and will protect both pedestrians and drivers, Solis said. Vision Zero will enhance the quality of life of our neighborhoods by ensuring that our roads are safely designed to keep local residents free from danger while they are walking, running, or driving on our streets. Countywide, vehicle collisions are the leading cause of death for children between the ages of 5 to 14, and the second leading cause of death for residents between the ages of 15 to 24. The action plan, Vision Zero Los Angeles County, a plan for safer roadways, identifies various safety improvements to be implemented over the next 5 years, including installing high-visibility crosswalks and pedestrian head start signals. Pilot programs will be launched at 3 or more high-collision corridors. Hahn said the county will rely on community input. Vision Zero is not only a plan to build projects that will save lives, it's a plan to engage communities so that the projects we build are ones they support and make sense for their neighborhood, Hahn said. Data from the street safety pilot programs will be reported back to the board in 90 days. The Los Angeles Lakers will enter the Western Conference playoffs with the No. 1 overall seed. Following a convincing 116-108 victory over the Utah Jazz on Monday night, the Lakers clinched the top overall seed in the conference for the first time since the 2009-10 season, the last time the franchise won the championship. As the Lakers won their second bubble matchup in 3 games, it's become apparent that the team's championship hopes run through none other than Anthony Davis. It was Davis yet again whom the Lakers ran their offense through in their latest win. The 6'11" forward steamrolled a legit playoff contender in the Jazz to the tune of 42 points and 12 rebounds on 13 of 28 shooting. There was LeBron James once again with a quiet, but near triple-double, performance of 22 points, 9 assists and 8 rebounds on 9 of 16 shooting. Davis's aggressiveness led to the Lakers pulling away during a key third-quarter run. The 27-year-old dropped 10 of the team's 18 points in the final 6 minutes of the third quarter, pushing Los Angeles' lead to 10 points at the end of the period. The Lakers led by as many as 14 points. Despite the Jazz matching up 2-time Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert on him, Davis couldn't be slowed down. Via Tanya Gangalai of the Los Angeles Times, "They really don't have a great matchup for him. in my opinion, so they put Rudy Gobert on him and gave him a little length, Lakers guard Alex Caruso said. You put someone small on him, he can post him up. You put somebody big on him, and he can bring them out, and he did that late in the game. He brought Rudy out to the perimeter and made some tough shots. He's Anthony Davis. He does what he does. Davis's latest performance is just his latest dominant display. Although James ended the Lakers' restart opener as the hero with his game-winning basket, it was Davis who was the true key to victory. The big man posted a dominant 34-point, 8-rebound, 4-assist stat line as he took advantage of an undersized Los Angeles Clippers front line. Fast forward to one game following the team's win over the Clippers and the Lakers fell to the Toronto Raptors in a 15-point loss. The Lakers were outscored by 13 points in the final period as Davis looked tentative after he was held to just 14 points, 6 rebounds and 3 assists on just 2 of 7 shooting, including 0 shot attempts in the final 6 minutes. It was James who emerged as the team's No. 1 offensive option for the game, taking 15 shot attempts. While James is one of the 2 leading MVP candidates, the Milwaukee Bucks' Giannis Antetokounmpo is the other. It is Davis who the Lakers will rely upon if they are to win their 17th NBA title. The Lakers' biggest test in the postseason remains none other than the Clippers. And as evidenced in the restart opener, their offense will have to run through Davis, not James, in order for the purple and gold to steamroll through their crosstown rivals. Beirut, Lebanon, at least 2 explosions in the Lebanese capital of Beirut, flattening much of the city's main port area, damaging buildings and blowing out windows and doors as a giant mushroom cloud rose above the city. The afternoon blast shook several parts of the capital and thick smoke billowed from the city center. Residents reported windows being blown out and false ceilings dropping. The explosion appeared to be centered around Beirut's port and caused wide-scale destruction and shattered windows miles away. An Associated Press photographer near Beirut's port witnessed people wounded on the ground and widespread destruction in central Beirut. Some local TV stations reported the blast was at Beirut's port inside an area where firecrackers were stored. Videos from around the city captured the massive explosion and subsequent shockwave Tuesday evening. The Associated Press contributed to this story. Copyright 2020 Cox Media Group. Beirut, massive explosions rocked downtown Beirut on Tuesday, flattening much of the port, damaging buildings and blowing out windows and doors as a giant mushroom cloud rose above the capital. Witnesses saw many people injured by flying glass and debris. An Associated Press photographer near the port saw people lying injured on the ground, and hospitals called for blood donations, but exact casualties were not immediately known. Miles from the scene of the blast, balconies were knocked down, ceilings collapsed and windows were shattered. The cause of the blast was not immediately clear. It came at a time when Lebanon is passing through its worst economic and financial crisis in decades. It also comes amid rising tensions between Israel and the militant Hezbollah group along Lebanon's southern border. Online video showed a column of smoke rising from the port area from what appeared to be an initial explosion, followed by a massive blast that sent up a mushroom cloud and a shock wave racing over the city. Some local TV stations reported the blast was at Beirut's port inside an area where fireworks were stored. Former President Barack Obama turned 59 on Tuesday by August 04, 2020 10:42 a.m. The former president turned 59 on Tuesday and was honored on social media by his wife Michelle Obama, who shared a throwback family photo of the couple and their daughters Malia, now 22, and Sasha, now 19. Get push notifications with news, features and more. Plus following you'll get the latest updates on this topic in your browser notifications. Happy birthday to my favorite guy. Here's to all the good days, blue skies, and new adventures to come. Microsoft announced Tuesday it will be launching its Netflix-style cloud gaming service on September 15 as part of a $15 per month subscription bundle. The company initially revealed it would make its xCloud streaming platform a free add-on to its Xbox Game Pass Ultimate service last month. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which costs $15 a month, is the firm's top subscription product and gives gamers access to a catalog of games on its Xbox One console and Windows 10 PCs. A beta version of Microsoft's cloud gaming software will be included with the Xbox Game Pass app on September 15th, allowing users to jump into a game from their smartphone or tablet. The app will only be available on Android devices and in 22 countries including the US, Canada, Britain and South Korea. Microsoft said it'll be coming to PC too, but there's no release date for that yet. Players will be able to choose from a selection of over 100 games at launch. Microsoft didn't reveal all the titles that will be available, but shared an initial list of games including Destiny 2, Gears of War 5, Grounded, Halo 5, Minecraft Dungeons, and upcoming title, Tell Me Why. The ability to play games from the cloud is a concept that's gathered increasing momentum in the $150 billion video game industry. The technology is often thought of as a kind of Netflix for games, as it lets people stream games over the internet on their phone, tablet or PC while the games themselves are run on remote servers. The appeal of this model is that gamers wouldn't have to buy a console or an expensive gaming computer to play. Competition in the cloud gaming space has heated up of late, with Google launching its own streaming platform called Stadia last year. Google's service was met with mixed reception due to a limited library of games and the fact that many of those titles had to be purchased individually. Nvidia has also released its own platform called GeForce Now, however that ran into trouble with developers earlier this year, and Activision Blizzard pulled all its games from the service. Meanwhile, Sony has long offered a cloud gaming subscription service called PlayStation Now, but that's only available on the PlayStation 4 and PC. In Microsoft's case, the company will roll out cloud gaming on Android phones and tablets but not PC or Apple devices to begin with. George Jijiashvili, senior analyst at Omdia, said that while Microsoft was a force to be reckoned with in the game streaming market thanks to its Azure cloud technology and Xbox gaming brand, the lack of iPhone support was a massive elephant in the room. Microsoft also unveiled a range of dedicated controllers and accessories that will work with cloud gaming, thanks to partnerships with various gaming hardware manufacturers. One controller from Razer attaches to a user's smartphone, with analog sticks and buttons either side in similar fashion to Nintendo's hybrid Switch console. Books breaking and entering has never been so romantic. There are many questions that Twilight fans had about Edward's decision to sneak into Bella's room at night and watch her sleep. Namely, why, and now, it seems like they're finally getting answers. While recounting the events of the first book from Edward's point of view, Stephanie Meyer's new release Midnight Sun reveals what Edward really did while Bella was asleep after he snuck into her room. For those who haven't reread, or rewatched, Twilight recently, after Edward fell in love with Bella, he would sneak into her bedroom at night in order to watch her sleep, and make sure that nothing would hurt or harm her overnight. But, if you thought he might have indulged in some inappropriate behavior while creeping in Bella's room, think again. According to Twitter user @GalacticIdiots, who shared screenshots of Midnight Sun on social media while reading the book, Edward didn't just stare at Bella all night, he actually spent the time while she was sleeping killing the spiders in her room. I reached out with one finger and crushed the brown hobo spider, silently, the book reads, with Edward adding that, the thought of anything hurting her was intolerable. At other points in that chapter, per the excerpt posted, Edward explains that he brought oil to grease the mechanism of Bella's window, in order to sneak in more easily, and the window moved silently out of my way, as he climbed in. And, because he's Edward Cullen and he's hopelessly obsessed, he also watched her toss and turn and listened to her talk in her sleep about the characters in the book she had been reading during the day. In this case, she was apparently dreaming about Edmund Bertram from Jane Austen's Mansfield Park, which briefly got his hopes up that Bella may have been thinking of him. Younger Americans are reporting that the coronavirus pandemic has negatively impacted, or even wrecked, their financial stability at rates almost twice as high as their baby boomer parents. While the pandemic is potentially more of a health concern for older generations, younger Americans are feeling the financial impact. That's according to a new report from AgeWave and Edward Jones that surveyed 9,000 Americans across 5 generations in May and June. The report found that roughly a third of millennials ages 24 to 39, and Gen Z ages 18 to 23, say that COVID-19 has had an extreme or very negative impact on their financial security. Meanwhile, only 16% of baby boomers ages 56 to 74, and just 6% of the silent generation ages 75 and older, felt the same. Additionally, younger generations were more apt to report that they have also suffered a mental decline since the pandemic started in March. The survey found about 37% of Gen Zers and about 27% of millennials say COVID-19 has negatively impacted their mental health, compared to 15% of baby boomers and just 8% of the silent generation. There are a lot of young people that are kind of running around pulling their hair out right now, says Ken Dykewald, psychologist and founder and CEO of AgeWave. Meanwhile, older generations reported having fortitude, Dykewald says. The mental and financial resiliency of older generations is due, in part, to their ability to rely on safety nets, Dykewald says. Those over 65 have Social Security and Medicare benefits that haven't been impacted by the pandemic. If you're retired, you've moved on from the chaos of the workforce, Dykewald says. People in their 20s, 30s, 40s and even 50s are getting up each day and trying to figure out if they're going to continue to have a job, if they're going to get an unemployment check, if they're going to be able to pay the bills. If you're retired, you're not worried about that. Not only do older generations have safety nets, they're also more likely to rely on home equity to get through this latest financial upheaval. About 78% of retirees own their homes and 60% have paid off their mortgage, according to AgeWave. They've got lower rent and mortgage payments than the kids living next door or the Gen Xer trying to raise a family across the street, Dykewald says. The combination of having safety nets and a secure home, as well as some perspective on having lived through other times of hardship, all contribute toward building up older generations' ability to stress less during this time. Many boomers are actually helping out their adult children. Since the pandemic began, 1 in 4 parents, which is roughly 24 million Americans according to AgeWave's estimates, have provided financial support to their adult children. About 37% of Gen Z respondents reported receiving aid from their parents, while about 26% say they've moved back home. They've got the second greatest quarterback of all time, right behind Drew Brees, and now we've got a head-to-head 2 times a year. The Celtics are on again this evening at 6:30 p.m., tipping off against the Heat. The Red Sox face the Rays starting at 6:40 p.m. and the Patriots were back on the field Monday. Cam Jordan's thoughts on Tom Brady. Saints defensive end Cam Jordan registered 15.5 sacks in the 2019 season as one of the league's most dominant players at his position. Now, thanks to a momentous free agent signing by the Buccaneers, he will get a chance to play against Tom Brady twice a season. Yet Jordan didn't seem too deferential towards the 6-time Super Bowl winner during an interview on Monday with NFL Network's Good Morning Football. They've got the second greatest quarterback of all time, right behind Drew Brees, and now we've got a head-to-head 2 times a year, Jordan said. We've got our work cut out for us and then they have an addition. You bring in Rob Gronkowski and LaShawn McCoy, you already had 2 1,000-yard receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. This is a team that's fighting for second place. The Saints host the Buccaneers in Week 1 of the 2020 season, with kickoff set for 4:25 p.m. on September 13th. New Orleans has won the NFC South 3 seasons in a row, while Tampa hasn't won it since 2007. Trivia: who was the last first-round pick of the pre-Bill Belichick era? Answer at the bottom. Hint: he was selected out of Boston College in the 1999 NFL Draft. More from Boston.com. Derek Jeter blames Marlins coronavirus outbreak on false sense of security. Sports Q. Who was the better Red Sox pitcher, Roger Clemens or Pedro Martinez? Dante Scarnecchia on Patriots opting out and what he thinks of Cam Newton's potential. ESPN to offer StatCast broadcast for Red Sox-Yankees Sunday night baseball matchup. Bruins-Flyers round-robin opener delivers strong ratings for NBC. Celtics hard-earned win saved an otherwise lost weekend for the return of sports. The Patriots are reportedly interested in tight end Delaney Walker. Bill Russell reminded Twitter that he is still alive after spotting fans tweet Olympic swimmer Katie Ledecky balanced a glass of chocolate milk on her head. Former Bruin Tyler Seguin was among the group of NHL players who took a knee during the national anthem on Monday. Cam Newton, officially in a Patriots jersey, On this day, in 1984, Carl Lewis won the 100-meter Olympic gold medal with a time of 9.99 seconds. Daily highlight: amid a hat-trick, Oilers center Connor McDavid scored a goal that was a perfect combination of his speed and skill. The replays showcase the exquisitely nonchalant flip of the puck into the roof of the net. Trivia answer: Damian Woody. In a rare sit-down interview at the White House, President Donald Trump repeated a slew of misleading claims aimed at painting a rosy picture of the United States coronavirus response. During the nearly 40-minute one-on-one, which Axios filmed on July 28 and aired on HBO on Monday, political reporter Jonathan Swan quizzed the president about several of the issues that have defined the past 6 months. Among them, why the president has suggested he won't accept the outcome of the election, whether Trump knew about reports of Russian bounties on American soldiers, and why the coronavirus death rate is on the rise. Right now, I think it's under control, Trump said, referring to the pandemic. How? 1,000 Americans are dying a day, Swan asked. They are dying, that's true. And it is what it is, Trump responded. But that doesn't mean we aren't doing everything we can. It's under control as much as you can control it. Trump's comments contained a mix of half-truths, missing context, and outright falsehoods. We fact-checked several of the most questionable claims below. Before the pandemic, they had the worst year, China, that they'd had in 67 years. This is misleading. We rated a similar claim mostly false. Prior to the coronavirus outbreak, China's economy was slumping. But 67 years ago, the country was on the cusp of a massive famine brought on by Mao Zedong's economic policies that historians say killed as many as 45 million people. It's not accurate to say that today's China is just as bad. For a number of years during the 1960s and 70s, the economy was in far worse shape than it is now, according to data from the World Bank. In 2019, China's economy grew at its slowest rate in 29, not 57, years. Daniel Funk at Trump's Tulsa rally: "We had 12,000 people, not 6,000, which you reported and other people reported. Trump doubled the official count." Arena officials, who scanned tickets of people entering Trump's June 20 rally, said the crowd totaled around 6,200. Multiple media outlets including Axios reported that Tulsa Fire Department spokesman Andrew Little said the crowd size was fewer than 6,200. That count did not include staff, suites and media at the 19,200 capacity box center. We spoke to Little on Tuesday, and he told us that the fire department did not come up with the crowd size on its own. Little said that the number came from the box center based on the scanned tickets of participants entering the center. That number was not tallied by us, Little told PolitiFact. It was relayed by us with approval by the venue. Trump campaign communications director Tim Murtaugh disputed the 6,200 figure the day after the rally, saying, 12,000 people went through the metal detectors, so that number is way off. Amy Sherman: "We have tested more people than any other country. This is incomplete." By Larry Neumeister, Associated Press, New York. A Manhattan prosecutor trying to get President Donald Trump's tax returns told a judge Monday that he was justified in demanding them, citing public reports of extensive and protracted criminal conduct at the Trump Organization. Trump's lawyers last month said the grand jury subpoena for the tax returns was issued in bad faith and amounted to harassment of the president. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance Jr. seeks 8 years of the Republican president's personal and corporate tax records, but has disclosed little about what prompted him to request the records, other than part of the investigation relates to payoffs to women to keep them quiet about alleged affairs with Trump. In a court filing Monday, though, attorneys for Vance said Trump's arguments that the subpoena was too broad stemmed from the false premise that the probe was limited to so-called hush money payments. This court is already aware that this assertion is fatally undermined by undisputed information in the public record, Vance's lawyers wrote. They said that information confirms the validity of a subpoena seeking evidence related to potentially improper financial transactions by a variety of individuals and entities over a period of years. They said public reporting demonstrates that at the time the subpoena was issued, there were public allegations of possible criminal activity at plaintiff's New York County-based Trump organization dating back over a decade. These reports describe transactions involving individual and corporate actors based in New York County, but whose conduct at times extended beyond New York's borders. This possible criminal activity occurred within the applicable statutes of limitations, particularly if the transactions involved a continuing pattern of conduct, the lawyers said. The lawyers urged Judge Victor Marrero to swiftly reject Trump's arguments, saying the baseless claims were threatening the investigation. Marrero, who ruled against Trump last year, has scheduled arguments to be fully submitted by mid-August. Every day that goes by as another day plaintiff effectively achieves the temporary absolute immunity that was rejected by this court, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court, Vance's lawyers said. Every such day also increases the prospect of a loss of evidence or the expiration of limitations periods. The precise concerns that the Supreme Court observed justified its rejection of plaintiff's immunity claim in the first place. The Supreme Court last month rejected claims by Trump's lawyers that the president could not be criminally investigated while he was in office. Vance's lawyers said Trump was not entitled to know the scope and nature of the grand jury investigation. But they said information already in the public domain about Trump's business dealings provided satisfactory support for the subpoena of his tax records. Shares of Snapchat parent Snap Inc. fell more than 5% on Monday after President Donald Trump backed a deal for Microsoft to acquire TikTok. The slide to $21.22 came on double the stock's average trading volume and on a day when most media and tech issues finished in positive territory. The last time Snap shares were this low was June 16. Trump said Monday he supports Microsoft acquiring TikTok, given it is a big company, a secure company, a very American company, though he didn't rule out another buyer entering the fray. Trump and his administration have objected to TikTok's wildly popular social media platform because of security concerns about it and Chinese parent company ByteDance. TikTok would be blocked in the U.S. by September 15, Trump said, if it is not acquired by new owners. In a research note Monday, Cowen & Co. Analyst John Blackledge noted that banning TikTok would invite unnecessary electoral risk for Trump by angering 100 million TikTok users. Related story: President Trump says TikTok will shut in the U.S. on September 15 unless Microsoft or someone else buys it. There will be significant repercussions from a presumed Microsoft acquisition. It would return the tech giant to the advertising business after years of moving in the other direction. As a private company, ByteDance has not disclosed financials, but a recent Wall Street Journal report estimated its ad revenue at $1 billion this year, surging to $6 billion in 2021. For rival social media companies, a Microsoft takeover would mean much deeper pockets and visibility for TikTok. The firm this year hired former Disney streaming chief Kevin Mayer as CEO as it sought to woo advertisers and enhance its reputation. In a blog post, analyst Rich Greenfield at Lightshed Partners wrote that many key details, including a proposed carving up of global territories Microsoft would acquire, remain in flux. But he said that knee-jerk reaction is negative on the part of investors in Facebook, Snapchat and Twitter as they contemplate the deal. On Q, shares in Facebook, Twitter and Google parent Alphabet, whose YouTube division is a rival of TikTok, all declined fractionally Monday. But Greenfield sees the longer-term outlook as more rosy for rivals. The full shutdown of a growing competitor would have been a positive, both in terms of share of mobile time spent and advertising spend competition, he wrote. However, the reality is all three should probably be unaffected to positive, as the structural disruption will likely slow TikTok down in the short term and less potential for global scale will hurt it competitively. Microsoft's past efforts to ramp up consumer brands have met with uneven results, Greenfield pointed out, citing Skype, Mixer, HoloLens, LinkedIn and Minecraft. The company is not a bad owner of TikTok, Greenfield reasoned, but we just do not see Microsoft as increasing TikTok's threat to Snapchat, Facebook and Twitter that already existed under ByteDance. Check out the companies making headlines after the bell. Virgin Galactic, shares of the space travel company tumbled 8% in extended trading after the release of second quarter financial results. Virgin Galactic reported a loss of 30 cents per share and an adjusted EBITDA loss of $54 million for the quarter. The company did not record any revenue for the quarter, with Virgin Galactic not yet starting its commercial space tourism yet. The space travel company also announced it anticipates flying found Sir Richard Branson in the first quarter of next year and plans to raise about $460 million in a sale of around 25 million shares of common stock. Nikola, shares of the hybrid truck manufacturer fell 2% after the closing bell after rising more than 21% earlier in the day. Nikola is scheduled to report earnings Tuesday after the bell. Deutsche Bank said the stock looks attractive, issuing a short-term buy rating and maintaining its long-term hold rating. ADT's stock dropped 1% in extended trading following a surge of 56% earlier in the day. The surge happened after Google announced it will invest $450 million for a 6% stake in ADT. The partnership will allow ADT to offer Google's Nest smart home devices to customers. Take-Two, the video game publisher's stock jumped 4% in extended trading after hitting an all-time high earlier Monday. Take-Two also reported its first quarter financial results after the closing bell. The company's revenues of $996 million surpassed Refinitiv analysts' estimate of $844 million. AIG, shares of AIG whipsawed and fell 1% in extended trading after the insurance company released its second quarter financial results. AIG's earnings of 66 cents per share excluding certain items beat the estimated earnings of 50 cents per share expected by Refinitiv analysts. A federal grand jury indicted a Sylmar man Tuesday, August 4, on a charge of arson alleging he set fire to a well-reviewed pizzeria in Hollywood during the civil unrest that roiled Los Angeles in late May. Mario Ernesto Alvarado, 42, is charged with one count of arson following his July 16 arrest on a federal criminal complaint. Alvarado was released on $25,000 bond and is due back in Los Angeles federal court on August 10 for arraignment. If convicted, Alvarado would face a sentence of 5 to 20 years in federal prison, prosecutors said. During protests in Los Angeles on May 30 in the wake of George Floyd's death, Alvarado allegedly walked into a commercial building at the corner of Melrose and Highland Avenues that housed Pizzeria Matza and its related business, Matza To Go, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Once inside, the defendant allegedly poured a flammable liquid on the restaurant floor and set it on fire, according to the indictment. The restaurant and shop were closed at the time of the fire due to a curfew order. Arson investigators determined that it caused $500,000 in structural damage to the shop, with an additional $50,000 in fire damage to restaurant merchandise and property, according to court documents. Pizzeria Matza is co-owned by chef Nancy Silverton, and has a sister location in Newport Beach. That restaurant has received several positive reviews from the Orange County Register. On June 29, the FBI and the Los Angeles Police Department released a statement seeking information leading to the arrest of several arsonists suspected of starting fires across Los Angeles during civil disturbances that followed the May 25 killing of Floyd at the knee of a Minneapolis police officer, which set off nationwide protests. Alvarado was identified by a member of the public as one of the alleged arsonists, according to court documents. Southern California News Group staff writer Eric Likas contributed to this story. Beirut, Reuters. A huge explosion near the center of Beirut killed at least 10 people, injured hundreds and sent shockwaves across the Lebanese capital on Tuesday, shattering windows and causing apartment balconies to collapse, witnesses and security sources said. Smoke is seen after an explosion in Beirut, Lebanon, August 4, 2020, in this picture obtained from a social media video. Talal Trabulsi, via Reuters. The blast occurred in the city's port area. Lebanon's interior minister said initial information indicated highly explosive material, seized years ago, that had been stored there had blown up. Here is a timeline of some bombings in Lebanon since former Prime Minister Rafiq al-Hariri was assassinated on February 14, 2005 by a truck bomb in Beirut. January 24, 2018. A bomb blast wounded a member of the Palestinian group Hamas in the Lebanese city of Sidon, destroying his car as he was about to get in. June 12, 2016, a bomb exploded outside the headquarters of Lebanese Blombank in central Beirut, causing damage but no fatalities, the Interior Minister said. November 12, 2015, at least 43 people were killed and more than 240 wounded in 2 suicide bomb blasts claimed by Islamic State in a crowded residential district in Beirut's southern suburbs, a stronghold of the Shiite Muslim group Hezbollah. January 2, 2014, a car bomb killed at least 5 people in Hezbollah's stronghold in southern Beirut, the latest in a series of deadly attacks on Shiite and Sunni targets in Lebanon. June 24, 2014, a security officer was killed when a suicide bomber detonated a car bomb near a Lebanese army checkpoint in Beirut. Dec 27, 2013. Former Lebanese minister Mohammed Chatta, who opposed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, was killed in a massive bomb blast which one of his political allies blamed on the Shiite Hezbollah militia. November 19, 2013, 2 suicide bombings rocked Iran's embassy compound in Lebanon, killing at least 23 people including an Iranian cultural attaché. August 15, 2013, at least 20 people were killed and more than 212 were injured when a car bomb went off near a Hezbollah stronghold in southern Beirut's Daya quarter. July 9, 2013, a massive car bomb ripped through a Beirut stronghold of Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group that has been fighting alongside President Bashar al-Assad in Syria's civil war, wounding 53 people. October 19, 2012, a car bomb explosion in Beirut killed a top Lebanese security official whose investigations implicated Syria and Hezbollah in the assassination of al-Hariri in 2005. January 25, 2008, a car bomb killed a police intelligence officer involved in the investigation of assassinations in Lebanon, in an attack in a Christian suburb of Beirut. October 12, 2007, a suspected car bomb near Beirut killed a senior military officer who was a leading contender to take over as army chief. June 13, 2007, anti-Syrian parliamentarian Walid Ado and 5 other people are killed by a car bomb near a Beirut beach club. NRDC Policy Director Walton Shepard says the utility over-relies on blockbuster projects that do more for its image and bottom line than for customers. Walton Shepard, NRDC Walton Shepard is elated that Dominion Energy opted to abandon the $8 billion Atlantic Coast Pipeline. But his praise isn't as effusive as some, such as a recent Forbes article that gushed about the utility's pivot to renewable energy. As the Virginia Policy Director for the environmental nonprofit's Climate and Clean Energy Program, Shepard wants Dominion to reduce its carbon pollution by committing to heftier and permanent energy efficiency programs. And while he doesn't want to dismiss outright Dominion's recent proposal to harvest and market what's known as renewable natural gas from Virginia pig manure, he also doesn't want customers to be further burdened by the $55 billion the utility is expected to invest into solar, wind and other low-carbon energy sources over the next 15 years. A comprehensive Virginia law that took effect July 1 requires the state's largest utility to switch to carbon-free electricity generation by 2045. Much smaller Appalachian Power must follow suit by 2050. Shepard joined NRDC 6 years ago after working on similar policies in his native West Virginia. He holds a law degree and an MBA from West Virginia University. In this Q&A with the Energy News Network, he explains how Dominion can look out for both its shareholders and ratepayers and how the Virginia General Assembly should prod such action in its 2021 legislative session. The interview was conducted before Friday's news that Dominion CEO Tom Farrell will step down in October amid a leadership shakeup. It's been lightly edited for length and clarity. First, you said that Dominion now heralds itself as a clean energy company. What's the first step the utility needs to take for doubters to be assured that Dominion is intent on serving its Virginia ratepayers and not its shareholders? Rather than over-relying on blockbuster, oversized and big tent projects like the Atlantic Coast Pipeline that provide windfalls for shareholders, Dominion can serve both its shareholders and ratepayers by right-sizing its business model. That company will be rewarded for a model that lowers its carbon pollution. Some of the billions that Dominion plans to invest in clean energy will evidently come from $10 billion Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is reportedly paying to buy 7,700 miles of the utility's long-haul gas pipelines. Some of that money will be invested into agriculture-derived gas projects to generate so-called renewable natural gas. Is that a wise environmental move? Recapturing methane is certainly sensible, no one can argue against that. But it doesn't make sense if it's just another showy project done to generate splashy headlines and executed at the expense of meat and potatoes projects like energy efficiency. President Donald Trump banned his former friend, the wealthy investor Jeffrey Epstein, from his exclusive Mar-a-Lago club for hitting on the teenage daughter of another member, a new book says. The late Epstein's banishment by Trump from the Palm Beach, Florida, club appears to have occurred months before Epstein pleaded guilty in 2008 to state criminal charges in Florida, which included paying for sexual services from a 14-year-old girl. But it also seems to have happened more than 2 years after a state grand jury charged Epstein with soliciting prostitution. The new book, The Grifters Club, Trump, Mar-a-Lago, and the Selling of the Presidency, also says that despite claims to the contrary by Trump's company, Epstein had been himself a member of Mar-a-Lago before he was banned. A Trump Organization official last year denied that Epstein, who had a luxurious residence in Palm Beach, had been a dues-paying club member after the investor was arrested in June 2019 on child sex trafficking charges. Epstein died a month later in a Manhattan federal jail from what authorities have ruled was a suicide by hanging. At the time, Trump did not reveal publicly what led to his falling out with Epstein, whom he said he had not spoken to for up to 15 years. "I'm not a fan of his," Trump said then. But the real estate developer and reality TV star Trump for years had been friends with Epstein before booting him from his club. Epstein also previously was friends with President Bill Clinton, Britain's Prince Andrew, and other wealthy and powerful people. In 2002, Trump told New York Magazine, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." The New York Times last summer reported that in 1992, a Florida businessman at Trump's request had organized a "Calendar Girl" competition at Mar-a-Lago. "I arranged to have some contestants fly in," George Harani, the businessman, told the Times. "At the very first party, I said, 'Who's coming tonight?' I have 28 girls coming. It was him, Trump, and Epstein. I said, 'Donald, this is supposed to be a party with VIPs. You're telling me it's you and Epstein?' Harani recalled. But Epstein's penchant for young women apparently became an issue for Trump and Mar-a-Lago years later, according to The Grifters Club. Sarah Blasky, a Miami Herald investigative reporter who co-wrote the book, told her newspaper in an article published Tuesday that according to another Mar-a-Lago member, Trump kicked Epstein out after Epstein harassed the daughter of a member. The way this person described it, such an act could irreparably harm the Trump brand, leaving Donald no choice but to remove Epstein, said Blasky. Epstein, months after his banning from Mar-a-Lago, began serving what ended up being a 13-month jail term on the Florida state criminal charges. Twitter on Monday disclosed that it expects to lose as much as $250 million for using personal information users provided for security purposes to target advertising instead, after receiving a draft complaint from the Federal Trade Commission. The stock dropped about 1% after hours on the announcement. The company made the disclosure in its second quarter 10Q financial filing with the SEC, saying that the allegations relate to the company's use of phone number and/or email address data provided for safety and security purposes for targeted advertising during periods between 2013 and 2019. The company estimates that the range of probable loss in this matter is $150, $0 million to $250, $0 million, and has recorded an accrual of $150, $0 million. The estimate comes after the FTC sent a draft complaint to Twitter on July 28 for violating the company's 2011 consent order with the federal agency. That consent order required Twitter to establish and maintain a comprehensive security program and barred the company from misleading consumers about the extent of its security and privacy practices. The matter remains unresolved, and there can be no assurance as to the timing or the terms of any final outcome, the company said in the financial filing. The company also updated various aspects of its quarterly filing to reflect the possible impact of a recent security breach, in which attackers took over accounts from well-known people and companies and used them to solicit Bitcoin payments. Twitter said the breach could hurt its ability to grow its user base and it could impact its brand and reputation among advertisers. This security breach may have harmed the people and accounts affected by it, the company said in the filing. It may also impact the market perception of the effectiveness of our security measures, and people may lose trust and confidence in us, decrease the use of our products and services or stop using our products and services in their entirety. The filing comes after a 17-year-old in Tampa, Florida, was arrested and accused of being behind the security breach and scam. Correction: the possible fine mentioned in Twitter's 10-Q was not related to the recent Bitcoin scam security breach. Virgin Galactic shares slipped after the space tourism company reported another quarterly loss and told investors that it doesn't expect to fly founder Sir Richard Branson until the first quarter of next year, when it expects to conclude development testing. The company also announced plans to raise about $460 million, in a sale of about 25 million shares of common stock. At the end of the second quarter, Virgin Galactic had about $360 million of cash on hand. Virgin Galactic provided a significant update to its development timeline, saying its next test spaceflight will occur this fall, with just 2 test pilots on board. Then the company will fly a second time, with 4 mission specialists inside the spacecraft's cabin. If both test flights succeed, Virgin Galactic expects to fly Branson in early 2021, which would mark the beginning of its commercial service. The coronavirus pandemic has slowed the pace of Virgin Galactic's testing, the company said in the press release. However, the company cleared 3 more Federal Aviation Administration milestones during the quarter, with just 2 of the 29 milestones left to go. The FAA process is key for the company to receive final regulatory approval to conduct flights with its customers. The company recorded an adjusted EBITDA loss of $54 million for the second quarter, in line with the losses of $53 million and $55 million in the 2 prior quarters. Virgin Galactic did not record any revenue for the quarter. Notably, analysts surveyed by Refinitiv had only expected the company to report about $900,000 of revenue, as the company has yet to begin flying paying passengers. Additionally, demand for future flights appeared to cool slightly, as Virgin Galactic recorded about 300 new $1,000 customer deposits. That brought its total number of fully refundable deposits to over 700 since February, as it reported about 400 deposits in the prior quarter. Those who make a deposit will be the first offered reservations for spaceflights once Virgin Galactic begins selling tickets again. The company has not said how much tickets will be priced for once sales reopen. Virgin Galactic has about 600 reservations on its books, with the majority of tickets sold for between $200,000 and $250,000 per person. Shares of Virgin Galactic fell about 7% in after-hours trading from its close on Monday of $24.02. Separately, the company made progress on its plan to develop a service that flies people to orbital destinations, such as the International Space Station. Virgin Galactic said it now has deposit agreements for orbital spaceflights with 12 customers, although it has yet to finalize pricing. We expect pricing to be competitive with other offerings in the market, Virgin Galactic Chief Space Officer George Whitesides told investors during the company's earnings call. The Spaceship Company, a Virgin Galactic subsidiary, is nearly finished with the second spacecraft for the company's fleet. Traders appear to be heading for the exits. What happened? Shares of Eastman Kodak NYSE, KODK, plunged on Monday, as the volatile small-cap stock surrendered much of its recent gains. As of 3:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, Kodak's stock price was down more than 30%. So what? Following news that it had secured a $765 million Defense Production Act loan to produce COVID-related pharmaceutical components, Eastman Kodak's shares soared as much as 2,757%. From its closing price of $2.10 on July 24, Kodak's stock price hit a high of $60 on July 29. Eastman Kodak's stock was down sharply on Monday. Image source: Getty Images. Kodak's stock, however, has pulled back violently since then. With its shares currently trading for about $15, Kodak has shed roughly 3/4 of its value from its recent highs. Now what questions are swirling as to why Kodak, which is primarily a technology company, was chosen to receive a loan related to pharmaceutical supplies, rather than a company with more experience in the field. Kodak's board of directors also made the questionable decision to grant executive chairman Jim Continenza options for 1.75 million shares of stock just before the deal was announced. Additionally, Kodak's convertible debt holders have chosen to convert their bonds into stock, which, while helping to strengthen the company's balance sheet, is diluting existing shareholders. In light of these factors, most investors would likely be best served by staying clear of Eastman Kodak's stock.